got service advanced track, blind spot system fault, and then there's like a cross traffic system fault. There we go. Let's put that in a report. I just scanned it. Open that up, let's see. Steering wheel position sensor, okay. Invalid data received from ABS. Data received from ECM is invalid. Ambient air temperature sensor, invalid data received from ABS. Invalid data received from vehicle dynamics control. Okay, so basically one fault in the ABS, which is steering wheel position sensor, caused all these other faults to appear. So if we go into ABS, enter, we'll look at data stream, and where's our steering angle sensor? Let's see, I'm going to turn it lock to lock. We'll go right. No dropouts, no glitches. Go back here. Yeah, I mean, it's spot on. Steering wheel position sensor. So let's clear all these out again. Control module, left. Okay, so ABS is still not happy with our steering wheel position sensor. Let's go back to shop and see what that code's all about. By the way, the cruise control seems to work fine. You can increase the speed right there. Hit cancel. Just fine. So I'm driving on the rough road here. I took a turn. Bam! Service advanced track again. So let's rescan the whole car again. That fault went away for a little while when we were cruising. Is it going to say steering angle fault? Steering wheel position sensor. Let's read the position sensor while we're driving on the bumps. Let's see here. Steering angle, yes. Graph that. Let's see what it says. Ooh. Yeah, the steering wheel didn't turn and it was like minus 90. If I do a burnout. Well, no, maybe that was just me turning the wheel at it. Get one wheel on the ice here. It's front wheel drive, so let's see if the traction control kicks in. It's definitely slipping, it's blinking. Blind spot system fault. So for some reason that steering angle sensor glitched out. Now we're not happy. Well, just going around the curve again. Didn't see anything crazy on the steering angle sensor. mean, each time it was kind of during maybe a little ice got under the wheel or something. Maybe didn't believe the steering angle based on the yaw rate. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with the sensor. It might be a rationality fault. So the code says signal rate of change above limit. So what, if you suddenly turn the steering wheel, it'll spaz out? That's so stupid. Alright, so one other issue is the ambient temperature is not showing, and the PCM is fussing about ambient air temperature sensor circuit high, so we can look into that. Got to fix what's broken, right? We're trying to get this car to act up, do what the customer said it was going to do, but it happened once for her, and that was like months ago. And then everything was done and touched, and BCMs were replaced. So we're trying to get back to a baseline. You know, we got the BCM programming under control, and well, you know, make this car perfect. Like the turn signals, I still can't explain why. Sometimes they would flash slow, sometimes fast. We can do some research on that. And the steering angle sensor, that's kind of weird. Alright, so I managed to extract the ambient air temperature sensor. It lives right here, so the grill spaces are big enough. You can stick a claw through there. There's the connector. Here is the sensor. Let's measure the resistance of this sensor, and then we could just use a decade box to kind of trick the computer into thinking we're at some normal ambient temp. Make sure the circuit's good. It's probably just a bad sensor. Alright, I'm measuring the resistance of the sensor and showing about 13 kiloohms. Seems a little high. I thought it would be, you know, hundreds of ohms, but we can look up some specs, see if that's normal. Alright, so here is live data for the ambient air temperature sensor. So we're at 2.6 volts, looks like 80 degrees. So I'm going to start switching these resistances. Okay, 91. So let's go to 13,000 ohms, like the stock sensor was, and it seems to be fine. So indeed, we're in that 10 to 20 kiloohm range for normal ambient temp. So nothing's wrong with the sensor. Why is the computer fussing? Alright, so let's plug in our sensor. Okay, it's clipped in. 64 degrees, 3 volts. That looks perfectly normal. I'm just going to clear all DTCs again and see if that readout comes back on the cluster. I'll take it for another test drive. Just working the bugs out. I mean, this car has been off the road for almost half a year. Let's see if the display came on in the cluster. Alright, let's turn the key on. It says minus 40 degrees there. So I don't know if that will update once we start driving. Let's do one more smart scan, make sure there are no codes stored currently. Take it for another spin. Alright, so our ambient temp is back online, 22 degrees. Our turn signal seems to be blinking at the correct rate. Is this car basically like relearning itself? I guess. Just gotta keep driving it. No warning lights yet. Looks pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, that's totally normal. Huh. I was just pulling up to my driveway. Everything was perfect. Now it's blinking weird, blinking fast, and we got this advanced track light again. I'm sure it's a steering sensor. I think I hit a little spot of ice, so let's reset it. Just a key cycle, no code clears. What? I really don't understand the turn signals. That's crazy. What if you put the hazards on? Normal, right? The turn signals, I can't explain that. Alright, so the only code stored, just because of that little slip on the ice, was steering wheel position sensor. And then these two guys, headlamp control module says invalid data received from ABS. Power steering says invalid data received from ABS. So, I think this car is pretty happy. We'll take it on a few more test drives, but you know, the customer complaint, I have a feeling we're not going to reproduce that. Where the whole medium speed can, like, you know, blower shuts off, radio goes nuts. I don't think it's going to happen. But for bonus footage, let's take a look at these weird turn signal frequency. Why is the frequency changing sometimes, and sometimes it's not? Alright, something very interesting that I noticed. I turned the charger up to 14.5 volts, and look at our turn signal. No, it's not going to do it. It was flashing fast. There you go. Da, 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 da. See, it's going nuts. If we turn the charger down to 13.5, it'll blink normally, which is crazy. Here, I'll just shut it off. Totally normal. Turn it back on. See? Now it's changing. Is that something wrong with the BCM? That's pretty crazy, huh? So, the hazards are okay. The right one seems okay. Left one seems to be kind of weird. Right one's okay. How do you explain that? Nope, right one sometimes also speeds up. I mean, would a brand new replacement BCM fix that? Is that a calibration problem? Is it a voltage sense problem? How bizarre. Ooh, on the wall. What is going on there? Why is it like a strobe light? This one's not lighting up. Huh. How about that? What about the right one? Look at this. This one's not lighting up. Okay, that is so cool. Let's turn off the charger. We'll turn off the charger. Didn't this one light up before? Let's turn on the hazards. Now it's just these. I thought these were blinking also. What the heck? What if we turn on the lights? Turn off the parking lights. Turn on the parking lights. Okay. Turn on the charger. Turn off the parking lights. Oh, let me turn on the charger like that. It's going nuts. Is that what's going on outside the car too? So lights off, it goes nuts. Lights on, the cadence changes. This is the weirdest car ever. No code set. I have to figure out, you know, this isn't a bulb, this is a headlight module. So this only flashes when your parking lights are on. Like that. If your lights are off, you get this. What? Here's another interesting observation. If the lights are off, it blinks fast. I turn the parking lights on, blinks normally. What's going on outside here? It's doing that. Well, if we have our lights on, it seems to be happy. This is so crazy. Are the parking light LEDs supposed to be tied into the turn signal LEDs? Just monitoring the alternator data. Everything's perfect. There's no codes. Let's look at some wiring diagrams for the parking lights and the turn signals. Because why wouldn't that second bulb flash when the lights are off? Right? So by design, this thing is supposed to maintain 13.8 volts, not 14.5, so that was, you know, an experiment, but this is normal operating voltage, 13.8 at the DLC, which agrees with the desired voltage. That's fine. And everything seems to be good when our lights are on, even the parking lights. So that's I guess a problem. If your lights are off, you shouldn't be flashing fast. So I'm not sure the camera is going to pick up the strobe effect. I can see it in the viewfinder. So I have its battery charger set to exactly 14.0 volts. So on the scanner, our battery voltage reads 13.8. Yes, there's a 0.2 volt drop. This is how the car is running. We're about 13.8 right there at the DLC. That's when this thing is acting up with turn signals. Look at that. That's cool. We can reproduce it without running the car. I like that. And the actual frequency is that, and the front one is strobing, which is insane. As soon as we turn the parking lights on, normal. See, that one's dim and bright, dim and bright. This one is on and off, on and off. If we turn the parking lights off, strobe effect. Same exact thing with the right one. It almost makes me think this is like a police package. I mean, that's so cool. If you're turning and it strobes like that, I love it. But that's not what this car is supposed to do. So my question is, why? Everything else works great. If the lights are on, everything works perfectly. With the lights off, is there not enough current flowing? Like, why would the BCM flicker the light like this? It's driven by the BCM, this set of LEDs. So we can put a scope on the control wire for the turn signal, look at a wiring diagram, and I just want to see what it's doing. Normal of operation versus this strobe effect. So the right headlight assembly got unplugged. Here is the wiring diagram. It's redrawn since everything's on one page for the right headlamp. So pins 11 and 12 are the ones we're after. 11 is the parking lights, 12 is the turn signal indicator. You can see it comes from the BCM. It says right turn lamp FET, field effect transistor. And then the tail lights, or the parking lights, are actually turned on by, you see, exterior light system. You have to go to exterior lights. Park lamp relay, it goes through this yellow and blue wire. Yellow and blue to both left headlamp and right headlamp. It says park. So on the diagram, these are supposed to be completely independent, the park and the turn signal, and they're just grounded. That's not the case, because with the parking lights on and the turn signal on, this one actually turns off. On, off, on, off. Parking lights on, it just stays illuminated. So there's some more fancy circuitry in here that ties the turn signal, you know, pulsed command to the parking light, at least this corner one. The one in the center, it's dim with the parking lights on and just gets brighter when the turn signal is on. So there must be two separate LEDs in there. So the diagram is simplified. That's not what's going on. But what I want to do is first, with a 4 amp test light, I want to make sure these grounds are perfect on pins pins 9 and 10, G100, right side of engine compartment. So let me just quickly check those. And the pins are labeled on the connector. So these two bigger ones, that's 9, 10, and then 11, 12 are the ones we're going to scope. So let's go for pins 9 and 10. So 4 amp test light, boom, super bright. And the next one, 10, super bright. So ground is fine. I mean, the headlight works fine. Everything's great. Let's put a scope on the turn signal wire and the park light wire and see what's going on there. Alright, we've got two channels. The blue is the parking lights, the red is the turn signal feed. So let's just turn on the parking lights. Our blue trace should go high. Sure enough, it did. With the battery voltage. Now let's turn on the turn signal. Now we have to have the key on. So key's on, and here we go. Let's see what happens. So right now it's fine. Exactly what we expect to see, right? That's with the parking lights on. I'm going to wait till the screen finishes, and let's turn the parking lights off. Wow! And parking lights back on. Crazy. So the scope tells us what's going on. So this is the steady flash. See, the frequency is normal. And then when we turn the parking lights off, what happens? Complete crazy stuff. The frequency doubles, and then these become like packets. You see the dropouts? That's causing the strobe of the LED. What is this? Da, 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 da. That absolutely blows my mind. I think the only thing that could be responsible for this is the BCM. So there is a problem in the BCM. It needs to be replaced. But does that explain the other customer complaint, you know, where the, I assume the medium speed can got interrupted? Perhaps. Let's take a look at TSBs, just in case there's something weird like this. I did a Google search, couldn't find anything on this specific issue with the turn signals. Because right now, everything seems to work except for this weird problem with the turn signals when the parking lights are off. Blows my mind. So there's one TSB that's titled Various Electrical System Malfunctions. And this says MKS vehicles built on or before 12/21/12. Well, our vehicle is built 2 of 13, so I guess this doesn't really apply, but let's see what it says. Hazard lights staying on, brake warning indicator illuminated, door illumination inoperative, multiple door jar lights. So we don't have any of these issues. It just says replace BCM. So apparently these BCMs have had issues, and this one is built 2 months after this date. So not, you know, out of the question that this BCM could also be having issues. But at this point, the car is totally drivable, and as long as you keep your lights on, your turn signals will be fine. If your lights are off, they'll be like a cool police strobe turn signal. Is it worth replacing a BCM because of that? That's up to the customer. So we were able to do, luckily, the recalibration procedure, the PMI, which didn't involve PATs. You know, we tried to get into PATs. It kind of worked, but then it kicked us out. So I don't feel comfortable replacing the BCM and doing all the immobilizer stuff to restore the vehicle like that. So I think we'll end it here. I'll tell the customer with this turn signal problem, the problem is inside the body control module. If anything else happens, and I guess these are unavailable because the other dealer tried 3 used ones. They couldn't get a new one. So that's the way it goes. This car's only what, 12 years old now? But I'm sure Ford doesn't make modules for cars older than 7 years. That's what you get into. So mechanically, the car has 100,000 miles left. Electrically, if parts are discontinued, you could be in a pickle. So there's a follow-up. We'll be back. But for now, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye. So these strobe turn signals are such an interesting symptom that I decided to share it with my good friend and mentor, Keith DeFazio. I actually sent him the PICO file so we could both look at it and just look at some diagrams and kind of brainstorm what could possibly be causing this issue. So, question is, is it an input problem, or is the BCM trying to current limit something? Like, this is crazy that when you turn the parking lights off, this starts happening. Elevated ground voltage, then these strobes, and then the flashing frequency doubles, right? And then Keith said, where's the water? There's something, you know, the BCM is definitely trying to either protect itself or thinks that a bulb is out. And where are these circuits being crossed? Is it at the headlight assemblies or is it in the wiring harness? He's like, is there water intrusion? Let me show you what I found in the driver's footwell. So I'm like, wonder if there's any water in here. Guys, this floor mat is soaked, absolutely soaked. There is a pool of water at the driver's feet. Insane. So where is it coming from? And the BCM lives right here by the emergency brake pedal. Here it is. And we see little rust spots, like this has been wet for a little while. So let me tear off this kick panel, lift up the carpet, see if there's any intermediate connectors that have been getting wet with the green crusties or something. This is a huge clue. So are we going to find the problem with the turn signals? Perhaps, but we'll see. Well, everything is definitely a little rusty here. You can see there's some signs of water, and sure enough, here's the harness. That's probably waterlogged. Everything's wet here. From condensation, from not quite being submerged. I mean, you can see water down there. So next day on this 2013 Lincoln MKS, I was on the phone with the customer, the owner of the car, for about an hour this morning. Really nice older lady. She says she loves this car, and she told me to do everything possible to get rid of all the glitches, basically restore it to factory spec, get, find the water leak, seal that up. So she wants this car perfect. So that's our job, is to do that. I also picked her brain on the history of the vehicle. I asked her, have you ever had water by your driver's feet? And she's like, no, that's completely new to me. But she said that she's meticulous about her car in terms of keeping it clean, as she always parks it inside of a garage. However, before it got towed here, it spent almost 2 months sitting outside in the elements waiting for the tow company to schedule their tow. And we had ice storms and rainstorms and snowstorms, so the water got in, I think, while it was sitting, well after the initial customer complaint. So that's, I'm guessing, a red herring in terms of the water didn't cause the initial glitch. That's just my gut feeling. But we have to remove the driver's seat, remove the carpets, get all the water out, and find the source of the leak, and then hopefully seal it up. So that's going to be another, quite a few hours of labor just on that, that problem. Then she told me a few months before the big glitch happened, before it became a no crank, the traction light would come on in normal driving on dry roads in a curve. So that's exactly what we saw on our test drives. So that's definitely not normal. And is that a separate issue from everything else, or is it related? I have no idea, but we have to diagnose that as well. And then the funky strobe turn signals, that's a BCM problem, and she said that only started happening when they picked it up from the dealer, after the dealer gave up and couldn't program any of the used modules. So is that a separate issue? We have 3 separate issues now. Crazy. I also called the local Ford dealer and asked them, is a BCM available for this vehicle? Nope, discontinued. Ford only makes parts for 7 years after end of production, which is ridiculous. This is a 2013 and you can't get modules for it. Then I asked them, well, if I get a used one, could you guys program that in for me? And the parts guy talked to the service guy, and he said they don't have good luck programming used modules, especially the BCMs, on these Fords. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, the car's in nice shape. It has less than 100,000 miles. It's not rusty. It drives great. But we need this module that's discontinued, and they can't program used ones. It's just honestly ridiculous. Blows my mind. Is it planned obsolescence? It sure sounds like it. Then I also talked to Keith again, and he said we could try to do some remote programming with the PATs, you know, with the locksmith license, this and that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But it sure does look like this thing needs a body control module to fix the turn signal problem. So that's where we are right now. We'll be back in about a week. I have to go on a trip, and we'll let this car sit outside with the pool of water, whatever. It'll probably be frozen by the time I get back, and then we'll go from there. One thing I want to do right now before heading out is scope the turn and the parking lights again, like we did yesterday, but record two scenarios. Set the charger at like 13 volts, see how it reacts, and then set it to 14 volts and see how it reacts. What is that driver doing? Is that 1 volt difference enough to make it glitch or wig out? This is very similar to that weirdest Subaru in the world, where it would, when the alternator's hooked up, it would run like garbage on like 2 cylinders maybe, and then you unhook the alternator and then it smooths out. Go watch that video, and I think we might have a similar scenario going on with this BCM. I don't know how it could have gotten corrupted while the dealer was messing with it. Obviously they messed up the calibrations, we have to restore that, but it's something in the hardware inside the BCM. Is that messed up? It certainly seems like it. I don't think the water has anything to do with that problem either. Alright, here we go. So PICO scope is set up just like yesterday. So I have the charger at 13.0 volts. Let's see what happens. Oh, my button's missing. It's on the panel there. All right, here we go. On. Turn signals on. Make sure we're recording the signal. Well, that doesn't look great now, does it? And turn the parking lights on. Much cleaner. Okay, so we'll stop that recording, save this as 13 volts. Now let's bump up the charger to 14 volts. So, set button. And go. Oh, I think the ignition shut off because the voltage dropped for a second there. Let's try this again. Ignition's on. See, it's flashing fast even with the parking lights on. And parking lights off. Strobe time. Okay, fantastic. Let's turn the parking lights back on. It's still messed up, but you don't physically see the strobe. Okay, very cool. That's all I wanted to do for now. Alright, let's briefly review these two waveforms. Power of the PICO scope. So this is at 13 volts, and visibly the flasher is working absolutely perfectly. However, on the scope, when the parking lights are off, you can see there's something weird going on right here on the low side of the pulse of that driver. You turn the parking lights on, absolutely crisp, perfect, smooth, no little bumps or humps. So interesting, right? But visually, if you're just looking at the turn signal, you wouldn't say anything's wrong here. The cadence doesn't change. Nice, normal, slow, steady flash. As we bump the charger up to 14 volts, things really start to fall apart. So today, unlike yesterday, even with the parking lights on, it was still flashing fast. Sometimes, I mean most of the time, sometimes it would go back to its slower cadence for like 1 or 2 flashes. But look what's going on at the tops of these pulses. What is this? This little, like, what is that? And these things are dropping out, the little mini pulses, dropping down to about 10.5 volts. So this is a fast flash, and then when you turn the parking lights off, the light show begins. Strobe action. I guess today we're dropping to about 4 volts on the little spikes, and then the ground is that same kind of a hump ramp down, not to ground at all. Starts at about 3.5, goes down to 1.5. Crazy stuff. 1 volt difference between the two captures, 13 to 14. This BCM really starts wigging out, at least on the turn signal circuit. Is there anything else it could be other than a bad module in terms of hardware? You know, this is not a software issue. There's no way it could be. A driver should not act like that. You know, the software would control on and off, but not some weird pulse that's like, you know, the voltage is only halfway. I don't buy it. It has to be a hardware problem. So this thing does need a BCM to fix the turn signals. I'll share these waveforms with Keith, and we'll see what he has to say. And then we'll get back in this car next week.